The White House effectively announced that a ceasefire on the Black Sea has been reached. Is this an opening act to further peace negotiations? How is it going to change the dynamic of the potential peace talks? And what is it actually going to change? Joining me now to discuss the latest is Stephen Moore, founder of the Ukraine Freedom Project.
Good to be with you.
Great to have you back on the show, Stephen. Thank you for joining. So, we're looking at the latest developments. U.S. announced a ceasefire on the Black Sea. What does this mean, do you think? And is it going to advance further peace talks? And is it safe to call it a breakthrough?
Well, look, there's already a ceasefire on the Black Sea because the Russians can't use the Black Sea because the Ukrainians have sunk 40% of the Russian Black Sea fleet. So this is something that's good for Vladimir Putin. It's not necessarily good for Ukraine. So I think what Zelensky is doing, he's signaling to Donald Trump, okay, President Trump will do it your way, and then let's see what happens, because as we know, Putin has never honored a ceasefire or a peace agreement or most of the international agreements that he's entered into. So it's a matter of time before this one goes south.
Which takes me to my next question. Total ceasefire, it seems, takes longer and longer to achieve. And it seems to be the case that what we've seen so far is this sort of a push and pull game over the days and weeks past. So are we to look at those elements that are taking place as a smokescreen for Russia to gain something else, to get to its goal? What would the goal be at this point?
Well, look, I mean, you know this better than I do. You're Polish, and Russia wants to reconstitute the Russian Empire. They want to rebuild the Soviet Union, and so for that they need Ukraine, and Poland and the Baltic states and Finland are next on the menu. So Putin has not, decided to behave differently. He's not changed his goals. If you look at the details of these peace agreements that they're talking about, these ceasefires, then you see that all of them are just a way that Putin is buying time to restock his missiles, to restock the Iranian drones, and likely come back at Ukraine at a future time.
So, considering the partial Black Sea deal, what is going to happen in days and weeks to come? And does it have a potential to speed up some further peace talk negotiations? Or is it actually going to give Russians more time to refuel and hit with double strength?
Well, and that is the question. There's the folks in the White House, the folks in Washington have a lot more faith in Vladimir Putin as a man of peace than I do, and probably most Eastern Europeans do. And so what needs to happen here? I think Zelensky is betting on a peace process education for the Trump administration. There's a perception among conservatives in the United States that somehow Zelensky is the problem, the stumbling block to peace. But so I think what Zelensky has to do at this point, if he wants support from the White House, is to play Trump's game. Trump wants to do it this way, so Zelensky, has to go along. Zelensky has three options right now. One is get security guarantees or weapons from the United States. Two, get security guarantees and weapons from Europe. And three, keep fighting and pick up weapons where you can, because Ukraine has a very well-developed defense industry at this point. They're leading the world in drone warfare, and that's what's causing 90% of the Russian casualties right now is drones. So it's not as though Ukraine can't survive on its own. The question is how they can continue to fight. I think the problem they have is air defense, and how do you keep the Russian missiles and the Iranian drones out of Ukrainian cities targeting civilians?
Well, definitely there's that talk of Germany and Friedrich Merz suggesting that maybe Germany should actually give Taurus long-range missiles to Ukraine. This is definitely going to be subject of discussion as well. You mentioned security guarantees. Do you think that a minerals deal that we heard from Mr. Trump is going to be signed soon with Ukraine could actually serve as a potential safety guarantee for Ukraine?
Well, there's a reason that the United States of America has an Air Force base in Saudi Arabia, and it's not the weather. It's not the cocktails at the bar. It is because Saudi Arabia has minerals, in this instance gold. In this instance oil, that is important in the United States interest. So the theory goes that if Ukraine has important minerals, lithium and other rare earth minerals that are important to the United States strategic interest, then there will be increased there'll be an incentive for U.S. military involvement to protect Ukraine.
I cannot stop myself from asking, this is going to be our final question, but considering the message fiasco of the U.S. Senior officials yesterday, is this really truly a sign of rupture in the transatlantic relations with what we've heard from the signal messages?
I think those signal messages should be taken seriously. I think that, and look, NATO has been rotting from within as an alliance for a long time. Again, the closer your capital is to Moscow, the more likely you are to actually honor your obligations to NATO. And Poland and the Baltic states and all the countries that are near to Russia are really helping defend Ukraine. They're really putting defense spending where it needs to be. Now, if you're France or Belgium or Spain, you don't fulfill, or you barely fulfill, your NATO obligations, and you spend more money on liquid natural gas, cheap Russian liquid natural gas, than you do on defense for Ukraine. So there is unfortunately a truth to the dissolution of the transatlantic alliance. And I think the sooner that Europe starts recognizing that it needs to play a stronger role in its own defense, and it can't fund both sides of the war in Ukraine, then I think that's better for Europe, better for Ukraine, better for the world.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Pleasure as always to have you on the program. Stephen Moore, founder of the Ukraine Freedom Project.
Always great to be with you.
And so this marks the end of World News Tonight, but please do stay tuned. We're back in just a moment here on TVP World with more news and features.